We're in the middle of a home renovation project, and previously we poured that slab so that we could build steps for the front porch. That's what we're working on today, building some steps. You guys can see that I've already prepared the wood for our steps, but let me show you how I figured out what I'd need. So taking a level from the height of my porch, I can see that we have 35 inches of drop, so I need the steps to come down 35 inches. 7 inches is actually a good height for a step, in my opinion. So I was able to divide 7 into 35 5 times. That means we need 5 steps. Now, I'm going to count the top of the deck as a step, so we're starting 7 inches down. That'll be one step. So I needed to make 4 steps, 7 inches each. So that's why I cut 4 steps over there, which we're going to be using. But now I have to cut the stringers that are going to support those steps. And we have a little trick for you. I'm just taking this scrap of lumber, and my steps are actually going to be made out of a 2x12, single 2x12. Here's 11 1/4 inches. So our step is 11 1/4 inches. And I want it to overhang 3/4 of an inch. Just overhang the front of the step. So if we take our 11 1/4, the width of our tread, and we take away 3/4 of an inch, that's our overhang. That means our step cut has to be 10.5 inches deep. That's what the step is going to sit on. So like if our stringer is coming down, the stringer is the sides of the steps, and you're going to have it zigzagging. It's going to be cut at 10.5 inches. 10.5, and then it overhangs 3/4 of an inch. Pretty simple. So I marked 10.5, and I know each step is 7 inches tall. So I mark 7. And we connect them. We're going to cut this out. Here it is. 7 inches, 10.5 inches. That's going to be my cutout. We're going to turn this into a jig. So I'm going to go ahead, put my jig down here at the bottom, and mark my first line. I slide it up even with that line. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is the 4th step. Let me not mess this up. The top step has to be a little bit shorter.
There you go.
So that might have been a little confusing, but my bottom step is 5.5 inches because when I put my 1.5 step on it, it'll be a 7-inch height. But then these get taller because when the step is here, there's still a step here. So from here to here is 7 inches. So when it goes from step to step, it still stays 7 inches. It just shifts up. And this one gets shorter because we're going to be having a faceboard here. And since it's going to butt up here, this has to be shorter because on these there's a faceboard and a faceboard. So when the step pushes forward, this one accounts for it. This one is just different. I don't know. It's confusing, but it'll make sense when it comes together. That should be the right cutout for 4 steps. Hopefully I can do this without making a mess of it. Alright, let's see how badly we screwed up. Don't worry about how low it's sitting on here, because that's how it's supposed to be to get our 7 inches. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. It's a little bit tall just because the porch deck here is kind of flared up a little bit.
Yeah.
It'd be 7¼ inches when our step is on it. So it's a 1/4 inch off, but that's, you know. It is what it is. That's fine. That does put it, if you can see, right in line with our bolts. It's kind of close to the front though. I didn't want it that close, but it's good. That's where we can put our 2x4 right here. It'll be perfect. So that actually looks fine to me. Yeah, well, because yeah, see how pretty this is? Yeah. And you see how ugly that is?
Yeah.
So this one I'll put here.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that this one will come out pretty too. Because this side has some big knots on it. So if I do it like this, it should be right. It'll be exactly like this on the clean side. So now we don't even have to think about math. Right?
Yeah.
Or do you want to think about it still?
Not really.
So we decided to go a little bit different on these steps and try something new, which is pocket holes. The reason we're doing pocket holes is because we want to make it totally hidden fastener. We don't want to see any screws or nails when the steps are done. So we thought, why not do pocket holes from underneath? It adds some extra work and some extra complication, but if it works out, it's going to be pretty nice looking. So that's why we're doing pocket holes. Okay guys, I think we're ready. Everything is all set, the pocket holes are done, everything's cut, everything looks good. Now my middle stringer, I did have to customize, and you see how close I am to my pocket hole? I don't like that at all, but I cut this back because I'm going to be adding a back support to hold the steps to the porch. So that's why I did that. I cut this shorter, and I also notched out the bottom here. This notch was here because of the wood we used, but I notched this out for a bottom support. So you'll see what that's about. Minor modifications, a lot of planning, and I think this is almost ready to put together. Okay guys, this is starting to come together. Now, I'm going to be putting some posts on before the steps and everything so that we can create railings and a handrail. So that's what I'm working on now, just cutting this. And getting it in place. This build gets more and more complicated by the moment. So right now I'm measuring out my bottom step, which will be notched to fit around the posts. That's just the way we're going to do it. So let's hope for the best. We'll get this cut out. These feel good. They're going to even be more solid once the step is on here, stiffening up this. Well, it was a lot of work, but I have some holes cut. I was going to just notch the ends, but I decided to do holes. And these will fit right over the posts for my handrails for the bottom step. Should be cool.
Because it's hard to get ends when they're laying down. There's a staple in that one.
Now you might have noticed that this wood is untreated. And that seems crazy to use untreated lumber outdoors for steps that are exposed to the weather, but we're trying an experiment. And we're going to be finishing it with this wood treatment. And it's supposed to protect the wood forever from all elements. This wood should not rot. So this is the perfect experiment to see how well it holds up and if we'll continue using that in the future. So that's why we're using untreated lumber, because we want to test that out and we think it'll look nicer in the end. If we like that product, we'll talk about it in another video. We'll bring it up, we'll explain what it is, how it works. But right now, we're just experimenting, so we don't want to give you guys the wrong info. Let's see how this holds up over time. Okay, we're done with the finishing work. Now time for final assembly. This is going to be the tricky part. Because I pocket hold it, we kind of have to turn it upside down and assemble it from the bottom, and it's going to be hard to do that. But we'll try to figure it out. And then we're done. This should be quick and easy. I'm looking forward to having steps finally. How about you?
Yes, definitely.
Well guys, we're done. For now at least. We still have to put on the handrails and the, you know, the guards and everything. That'll be at a later time. For now, we're done, and it's awesome to have steps on our front porch. This, again, was a new experience for me because I haven't really built many steps. So, I was learning as I went, trying new things, and everything went perfectly. I'm so happy. They look so good. And now that finish that we put on the wood, it doesn't look like much, but over time, it's going to give the wood a very aged look. So I'm going to come back to this and show you guys what it looks like later on. After a few days, a week, I don't know, we'll see. But it's going to age the wood and it's going to preserve the wood, I hope. Again, I'll let you know more about that product later. I really want to see how it works before I start talking about it. You might see that the bottom of the steps is still open, and that's because we had to tighten up bolts that were holding it to the concrete. Those are tight. And then we're going to be putting on a faceboard. It's going to be a 1x6 treated lumber. I decided to do treated down there just because it's in contact with the ground and prone to being wet all the time, and I don't want to take any chances. The problem is I didn't pick one up. That's the one board I forgot and I didn't realize I would need. So I'm going to leave that until we go to the store next time, and then I'll tack it on. Unfortunately, that'll probably be the only spot on these steps where you'll see fasteners. I'll try to keep them slim and discreet. Maybe some finish screws, I don't know, we'll see. But it's not too bad. I love the clean look without nails or screws showing. So I think it was definitely worth the extra effort to pocket hole it. Now I could have done that without pocket holes by adding blocking and whatnot, but I had the equipment, I had the screws, why not do it? Now here's the crazy thing. It's secured, it's bolted, and I lagged it into the porch with 4 big lag bolts. It's solid, totally level, looks good. None of us has even tested it yet. After we got that bolted onto the porch, we all just went in for lunch and took a break. And I kind of want Ashley to try it first, so I haven't walked up it. I'm going to wait for her, but I'm loving it. Those posts, I was worried about how floppy they would be, but they feel pretty rigid. I wouldn't lean on them, but I think they're going to get more rigid when we put the railings and everything on. Sometimes it's hard to get posts really rigid when they're only hooked on a very small piece of wood at the bottom, but it'll work for what we need. If I want to strengthen it, what I could do is I could pick up some angled pieces of metal, and I could go underneath the porch, and I could screw the metal to those posts, and I could anchor them into the concrete with concrete screws. It's a hassle, but I could do that if I need them to be even stronger. We'll see. And I will give one more disclaimer that it is not finished, not just the little details, but not by far. This whole porch is going to get a makeover when we're ready, when we get to that point, and we're going to be trimming it out with some beautiful trim work around all the posts, painting, cleaning, all kinds of stuff. So it's going to look totally different. Wait for that reveal. It might not be soon. We have a lot on our plate right now, doing all kinds of projects. In fact, we got one right over there. That's coming in another video though. And before I go, there's one more thing I wanted to show you guys. Now, forgive our messy porch, but do you guys remember when I laid this porch, I put these deck boards down and I butted them up to each other tight. They may have had a 1/16 of an inch gap, if that. And I told you guys that I was putting them tight. I don't like expansion gaps because fresh treated lumber shrinks, and it shrinks a lot. So it was going to self-gap as the wood dried out, and boy, it did. I wanted to show you what the deck looks like today. So, check out these cracks. These were literally tight to each other when I installed them, and within a couple weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, they looked like this with huge gaps. I mean, that's a 1/4 inch right there. And I only wanted to point that out because I said I would when we laid them. I said I would come back to it and show you guys the gaps. I'm not saying don't gap your porch, but I'm saying that we don't gap our porch boards because that's what happens, and that's about the size gap that I like, nothing more. There it is. The porch has come together. It's looking good. Well, I guess I got to clean up my mess. So until next time, take care. You gonna try them out?
I'm scared too.
Why?
Whoa. You mean I can get on the porch so easy?
How do they feel?
Like totally normal, good stairs. Roomy, nice, perfect. Don't you love not seeing any fasteners?
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. Wow.
Daddy, can I try them out?
Yeah, you can try them out.
I can get out here. Hi, Dada.
Wow.
Yay! Now I don't have to lift you up anymore.
You climbed all the way up there?
I think it's food time.
I think it's thunder time.